What internet marketing expert should you spend your valuable time listening to? Listen to someone who has over 20 years of web marketing experience and hundreds of website marketing success stories. That man is Aaron Sparks from Site Strategics. And this is Edge of the Web Radio.
All right, we got some articles from Forbes and Content Marketing Institute. Doug, did you know there was a Content Marketing Institute?
Yes, I did. That's actually, isn't that part of Joe Paluzzi's stuff?
Mm-hmm. It is. It's good stuff.
Joe's a good guy. I'm sorry I missed content. Joe, I'm sorry I missed Content Marketing World. I really wanted to make it out there for you.
He called us and asked us about that because
I figured.
Yeah, there was a spot for you. There's a lot of people waiting to hear from you.
I know. Stop.
All right, hey, marketing performance measurement. It's not a new challenge, and it's not as if we've lost something we once had in the 1960s. Marketers have been talking about the struggle to measure marketing's performance for as long as it's been around. Check this out. It's kind of interesting, a quote from this article. Mercantilist John Wanamaker famously said in the late 1800s, "I know that half my advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half."
Yep.
In 1964, there's the concept of the marketing mix by Neil Borden. All right, he actually was quoted as he was discussing the highly desired but unfulfilled quest for the science of marketing, and he concluded with, "We hope for a gradual formulation of clearly defined and helpful marketing laws. Until then, and even then, marketing and the building of marketing mixes will largely lie in the realm of art." Well, isn't that interesting? I mean, there's the perspective there, is that even back then, it can't be substantively measured, or at least it can't be an exact science. I mean, there's certain things that you can actually measure. You can certainly dive in and see a particular transaction and where a source comes from, especially in the digital marketing world. And this is what we truly have enjoyed in the last 10 years, is to be able to have those type of measurements. But I mean, the key concept here is that for the longest time, for the last 100 years, okay, people have been trying to assess the marketing performance, and often calling, like marketing productivity analysis, right? It still remains subjective and very, very elusive. And go ahead, sorry.
Well, isn't it kind of funny? Isn't it? I mean, it's kind of funny because if you asked a marketer,
right,
if you asked a businessman, what was the last thing that you purchased? Did you guys have you purchased anything cool lately? Anything online? Anything? Come on, new toy, something.
I can't say what I did because my kids
I bought a new antenna for my TV.
You bought a new antenna?
Yeah.
Okay.
I bought something Batman.
Okay. How did you shop for the antenna?
On Amazon.
On Amazon. And how did you peruse the? Did you do a search on it?
Yeah, I did a search. I knew the brand I wanted, but
okay.
Yeah. So,
how'd you know the brand that you wanted?
It was an article I read in the blog.
It was an article that you read on the blog.
Yeah.
And at what point did you decide that you were going to purchase that antenna?
When I got frustrated with my current antenna.
Okay. Okay.
Did Tucker eat that antenna?
He did not. No.
So this is.
I wasn't getting all the channels I thought I could get.
So this is
right.
This is the thing, right? So everything had influence, right? The article, your dissatisfaction with your last brand had influence. Yep. The article had influence, and folks, we didn't set this up. We're just talking this.
Yeah.
The article had substance.
Yeah.
Then the search on Amazon, because you trust Amazon and you buy from Amazon, had, and then of course the price and reviews and everything else.
Yep.
And so this is what I always ask people. I was like, at what point did you make the purchase decision? Mm-hmm. At what point in your head did you go from I'm not going to buy to I'm going to buy? And people want it to be, marketers want it to be this, and businesses want it to be this magical thing that when I produce that one blog post, boom, everybody's going to change their mind. And that's not how it happens.
It's a series of amplification.
You talked about brand awareness there. Yep. You talked about dissatisfaction with another brand. You talked about having an e-commerce site, and this is the thing, is that's the, I think we look, and I'll talk more about this, but I think we look at it from the wrong perception all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody uses ROI, return on investment, as the science behind marketing, and invariably digital marketing, right, and content marketing, and actually marketing on a whole, cannot be a linear pursuit.
No, it's a omni-channel.
It really
complex.
is.
Yeah,
and just the description that you made, I just had a vision of a number of lenses being put in front of you, right?
Yeah,
it just kind of like the optometrist, and you're seeing it closer and clearly, more and more clearly. Right?
Right.
So you were seeing it back here, but you were able to define things. Now, all those lenses don't come from one marketer.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
They're all from different sources. So there's not a direct transaction. Okay?
Right.
So,
but everything incrementally helped.
Absolutely.
You just don't know how much.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's ever going to be the factor that you can gauge how much amplification moved somebody like a billiard ball over to something
The
else.
old question, right? How many blog posts do I have to write to
Right.
double my sales?
Exactly. Whether it's in this article, they simply call it ROI, ROMI, return on marketing investment,
Yes.
or even ROC, return on customer. Here's something that I actually liked. I heard a long time ago. ROO, return on objective. Now, here's something interesting. As opposed to an investment, where you're trying to have a transactional equation, a ratio. If you can actually pinpoint your objective of what you're trying to do, you can actually start having metrics against that objective. You'll never be able to transact it right back to what you originally put in at the top of the funnel, right? So maximizing the profitable return on investment in this marketing effort is what they're trying to get around, okay? So there's a number of problems here, and the main problem here is that maximizing ROI has always been, and always will be, the wrong goal for a campaign-oriented marketing, okay?
Right.
Because you're trying to think of it as a project with a due date, with an end time, with a finite piece, right? You can't.
It's not
that.
Yeah, it's not an ad impression that's going to run from a certain period of time to a certain period of time,
right?
On a distinct channel that you can measure click-through rate on.
Exactly.
You can write a blog post that lasts for years sometimes, and continues to increase in its value.
And that's the absolute truth right there. Yeah. It's not like a
people tell me that I'm absolutely truthful. Thank you.
People are lying to me. Sorry, that just slipped out. I had no idea where that came from. Thinking of these things as a return on investment is a bit like thinking, let's check this out, how your investment in gasoline produces a return on your job.
Yep.
Okay. Gasoline, like many marketing tactics, is ultimately a cost, right? Not an investment. Its fluctuating price has no bearing on how it may boost performance in the short term. Example, getting you to work faster than walking, right? And inherently, it only generates a short-term benefit. So you got to think of marketing as that gas tank, as you're filling in that gas tank with a number of different efforts on a regular basis.
You're nailing it, because I was thinking that I started to talk about I started to call it the content landscape.
Right.
That if you really, like, if you were going to farm, right, you've got to define, that you've got to plant seeds from here to there and from there to there.
Right.
And I feel like that's the direction that we need to go in. And I love that gas tank, because you want a full gas tank.
Right.
But
you're going to burn through it.
It might take you 3 years to get there or whatever, but there's and I'm not saying that everybody should have a finite volume of content, but what I'm saying is that you really do need to kind of say, what are all the topics that I'm going to write about that our audience is interested in?
Right.
And then start that audit process of how much do we have? How much do we need to go? What are the most popular? And then start watching what performs, what doesn't perform. But you really should have kind of this long-term goal of, how am I going to fill that tank?
Absolutely. We're going to be talking more about and we're going to continue our discussion about ROI and how it can't really be connected to content marketing. And there's different ways to actually measure success of content marketing. And we were just talking about this, guys, about how a campaign a marketing campaign, content or otherwise, is very difficult to measure from a linear transaction.
It's kind of like a shotgun blast instead of a bullet. Everybody wants a bullet.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's more of a shotgun blast.
It truly is. So why is ROI the wrong metric for campaign-oriented marketing? Well, ask yourself: are you trying to understand if the effort did work, or whether it will work? I mean, you're trying to ask that question of yourself. If the former, you must capture measurements that quantify whether you met your goal. Okay. That also defines, you have to define the goal as well. And the goal cannot be a singular object. I mean, you're hitting it from a couple of the different directions at the same time. Yeah, that goal is going to have lead generation. It's going to be sales, right? Mm-hmm. But those amplification efforts are you think about these as ripples going out and constantly hitting a particular buoy, right? Well, if you make a splash over here and a splash over here in different areas of that pond, you're going to be moving that thing a heck of a lot more than one singular ripple or one singular stone you throw in the pond, right? So how can you tell which one had the toppling effect? You don't. And it didn't. Right. This is not, I mean, we're using a lot of analogies today. Yeah. It's not measurable to the complete quantifiable standpoint. Goals are incremental. You can have incremental sales revenue and cost per lead generated and cost per sale generated and cost per new customer. They're not returns on an investment, though. Neither are they even goals. These are accountability metrics that are put towards a particular business goal.
Yep.
Okay? All those factors don't have a true one-on-one connection to the marketing efforts. I mean, we just talked about Tom's walk through Amazon all the way down to getting a new antenna, right?
Yep.
A number of those efforts had nothing to do with marketing. Right. I should say a number of those efforts had nothing to do with the marketing of that particular antenna from that particular company.
Correct.
Okay. A number of different areas that you were focused on had to do with what you already were predisposed to put weight into. Mm-hmm. So the reviews have a certain weight with you where they may not have a certain weight with somebody else. Okay. So we've been talking about content marketing. Content marketing, you have to hit different user personas. And there are different user personas. Some have no attention to digital wake at all. Some have everything to do with print or have everything to do with sales, right? They have nothing to do with what you're sending out there in the social media or digital marketing side of things. So in order to try to quantify how a particular effort meets a particular goal, it's almost like what else were they affected by actually to transact that goal. And then you have to have a series of combinations of different efforts. And there's so many different permutations, you're not going to be able to get a square-on answer. You're not going to be able to do that. So, I mean, thinking of these things as return on investment, we were talking about, thinking about your gas tank and investing in gasoline products for your return on your job, right? You need to fill your gas tank, your marketing tank, and you need to keep on filling it. And there are some higher octane gas tanks, higher octane fuels out there. We all know that search engine optimization is a value that's an evergreen, longer term value as opposed to paid ad campaigns or social media, right? Those are higher octane type of things, but they have to be manned regularly, and there's a continual growth of value. It's not a singular transaction. There's going to be ongoing impact from your manning of that particular station.
I think there's some great stats out there now that companies that I think the minimum was about 7% of your overall revenue.
All right.
If you're spending that, on your content and marketing strategies, that you can sustain growth. And then companies go all the way up to, high growth is, you're spending about 20%.
Yeah.
And then there's companies like Salesforce that are spending 40, 50%. And
those are the afterburners.
But those guys are absolutely dominating, the market with that. And so if you think about that, just like your gas bill, right? Mm-hmm. You pay your gas every time you go fill your tank because you got to keep going. Yep. Do you want to? No, but you got to keep your tank full.
Exactly. Check this out. Another part of the article that we're talking about. Here's another problem with actually looking at ROI, right? So let's pretend that you mandate that to maximize marketing revenue is your focus. You're maximizing your marketing's ROI spend or percentage. If I spend $200 in marketing and get $250 in revenue, then technically my ROI is about 25%, right?
Yep.
Okay. But if I spend nothing to make $100, then my ROI is actually 100%. If I not spent anything and something just magically happens and somebody randomly comes across us, well, I mean, the whole thing's skewed.
Yes.
Because your goal, unfortunately, is to never do anything at all if ROI is the factor. I mean, that's 100%.
Yes.
But you're not going to have a predictability of that.
Well,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, and it's a momentum game. It's not, when I first started my blog, I was, wow, I got 10 readers. Woo, then I got 100, then I got 1,000, then I got 2,000, then I got 5,000. It's something that takes momentum, and over time your cost per lead goes down. Over time your cost per acquisition goes down, and over time your return on investment continues to go up. Mm-hmm. But it takes it's a long-term momentum play.
It is. And I mean, from just use it from a social media management play. Let's say when you first start your social media campaign, and to be brief here, you had no followers, right? Yeah. And then you fast forward a couple of years into it, you've got a couple thousand followers. You better believe that each drop of new content in there gets amplified much more than original, right?
Yes.
If you were if you were looking at the same type of transaction of a piece of content that you sent out there, well, shouldn't each one of them have as much effect? Absolutely not. Right. You have to build your tribe, you have to build your following, you have to build your engagement, and you're continually trying to focus on a larger ripple effect, and it has to be supported by continual momentum, continual growth. You're absolutely right there.
It's like walking into a room and just expecting to sell something. You wouldn't walk into a networking event and just jump out and say, buy this. You would create a relationship with those people. Over time, they would build trust, and over time, they would convert with you.
Absolutely. So content marketing is an investment that, if done well, provides increasing value over time. Individual campaigns can be kind of valued at that moment, but the campaigns are continual. You add into it. You keep on filling that gas tank. Otherwise, all the momentum that you get, when you run out of that gas tank, and I don't know if you ever had that happen before, if your tank dries up on the highway.
It was on the way here once. Remember? I told you about that.
Yep. All right. So you've listened to Edge of the Web Radio, and there's so much more in this article. I'd certainly entreat you to give it a listen. We have the link online at edgeofthewebradio.com, and be sure to check out all the videos and much more. We're having a great time talking about content marketing, and I think we're going to give it another run through here next week. So give us a shot.